All systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, a.k.a. ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the First Look Show here on the SHIPIT Nation YouTube station. Almost to 9,100 subscribers, so let's keep it rolling. Make sure you like this show. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Once we get to 10,000 subscribers, we're giving away the $9.99 annual with Shiptimizer package. So make sure you're subscribed if not already. Happy early holidays to everybody out there. I got my guy Hoopster here with me this week, filling in for DGen75. Shout out to James. But Hoopster, Desmond Ridder, optimal. I've been away all weekend. I was in Nashville. I'm going to bring some stuff back for the people, but I did see in the Discord between layovers and delays yesterday, you said if Desmond Ridder is optimal, you'll do another shoey.
Man, does that even count? Like, how pathetic! Like the performance by all these quarterbacks, just so sad. Like, I should have put a disclaimer in there. It needed to be above 14 fantasy points. But yeah, we'll work something out. I mean, just what a awful slate of games. I mean, just terrible. Those two games, just awful. I mean, I guess the Vikings looked all right, but the Falcons, just a pathetic team. Kirk Cousins it looks awful. I mean, he looks so bad out there. Like, if they get in the playoffs, they'll get their ass kicked, whoever they play round one. It was tough watch last night for sure. I mean, Caleb Williams, it's early, but he does not look very good. Like, throwing the ball 100 miles an hour on touch passes. I mean, the dude's wide open. I think it was Keenan Allen, just drop it in there. I mean, just throwing fastballs to wide receivers when you clearly just need to drop them in. He looks like shit. Kirk Cousins looks like shit. Vikings, I mean, they beat a dead team, so I give them no credit. Just two stupid-ass games.
Crazy how the Vikings are so set up right now and what their record looks like and what it actually is versus some of these other teams, that there's other teams that have worse records that you're like, man, that's such a good team, versus them, you're just not feeling it. They're beating up on some of these weaker ones. You lost another guy. I know it's not a recap show. We're going to get to the first and the second 11 games ahead, but now Demont goes down and what's the situation? But then Aiden Hutchinson said he could be back for the Super Bowl.
That's what he claims. I don't know. Every doctor says there's no chance, but with technology and the way these guys are healing nowadays, and other forms of treatment, I wouldn't put it past them. But I don't know if they can get there. I mean, they lost more defenders. That Aleem, what's his name, McNeil. They just gave him a massive contract. He's been a beast. He's out. Kirby Joseph's out. The defense is just depleted. And what I saw, obviously, Josh Allen, different beast, but I mean, just tore them apart. And some of the touchdown, the rushing touchdown, there was no one within 15 feet. He could have sat at the 1 yard line for about 5 seconds and then just rolled in and scored a touchdown. So I am unfortunately very, very down on the Lions. I just don't see how they get it done with this defense. Now, hopefully, they surprise me, but they have to overcome. So, and honestly, I'm not even as worried about the Montgomery situation. I think they can overcome the Montgomery situation. I mean, Gibbs is good. Gibbs is really good, and that just means more reps for Gibbs. And we'll talk about it on this slate because he's on this slate. Mm-hmm. Dan Campbell already said they're riding his ass. So, I mean, he's got to be a phenomenal play this week. I don't know what his price is. I imagine they probably didn't bump it up too much, but probably has to be one of the best running back plays on the slate. I mean, they're gonna ride him. That's what Dan Campbell said. I believe it, but it is very unfortunate for the Lions.
I did see one quote, though, where he checked it up a little bit, where he also said they still got, what's his name, Craig Reynolds to come in, and they got the other guy. So I don't know. We'll have to see, but I'm certainly with you on that. We'll get there in just a moment. Yeah. Before we do, just want to show everybody one time. We'll go to where we're going here. NFL, The Stone. Just want to break down the week ahead real quick. A little bit of the content schedule. We'll have it in the Discord for members also, but just to note, we do have the Thursday Night Football game, normal coverage as usual. We'll have the show over on the Mayo Media Network. It is what is it this week? Denver at the Chargers. So the Broncos at the Chargers. We'll cover that as usual. Then on Saturday this week, there is a 2-game staggered slate. It is Houston at Kansas City. We'll wait on the Mahomes news to see if he's going to be able to play with that ankle, if they're going to rush him right away to come right back in. And then it is the Steelers at the Ravens, hoping the Ravens can get this one done. They certainly need it with how they sit right now in the AFC North and everything there. So 2-gamer on Saturday will be the Stone, the standard core reports. We won't have the value report. It'll be a condensed player pool and slate plan, but we will have the Stone, the projections, the ownership all put into Shiptimizer. And then for Showdown, we will cover the Steelers at the Ravens game. It'll be the projections, ownership, the Stone, and the cores. No player pool slate plan for that one either. So just a note, we're going to keep the 2-gamers that way across the site so that everybody's aware. But if you have questions and you're a member, let us know in the Discord. If you want to get in and become a member, still plenty of time to get in. If you want all access, it's the $85 a month. If you want the single sport, which you can get used to because PGA just around the corner, but football, rest of season right now, just all the way through Super Bowl, all these 2-gamers, the showdowns, all of that, $99 or $129 if you want it with Shiptimizer. All right, Hoop, 11-game slate, popped up the Stone right here on the site under NFL, the Stone. We've got the shell up with some of the details. It is the main slate, week 16, so we're getting through it. And by the way, a programming note here too, sorry to keep rolling, but this is the last first look of the season. Next Tuesday is a very special Christmas Eve 2-game slate show that Hoop and I will be doing for the Christmas Day slate, so no first look there. And then the last week is always a shit show, so we just sort of cancel that one out, but it's also New Year's Eve, not as many people, crazy, waiting on injuries and last-minute stuff, so it's not out of laziness, it's more out of necessity for what we need to cover and what we can help you with. But let's talk about this one, Hoop. We got 11 games, 4 in the afternoon, 7 in the morning. What's your thoughts on the slate? You mentioned the Gibbs news. Anything else stand out coming in?
Yeah, not too much. One other thing I did want to mention is for the 2-game slate on Saturday, we will have a show Saturday morning. I just pulled out on the schedule. It's going to be 10:30 Eastern time for the 2-game slate. And those slates are big. I mean, I think the prize pool is already out. They're always big. So that's a big slate. Overview on this slate. I mean, it's definitely tough. Like you said, the later you get in the season, I mean, the more difficult it is to really nail things down early in the week. And I agree with you. Like a first look, for the rest of the season, it's probably going to be relatively null and void, but it's fine, for today to go through and kind of talk through it. The one thing that definitely stands out to me is the Montgomery thing, like we talked about. Pulling it up here, Gibbs is 7,500. And imagine like he gets all the work. Looking at some of these totals, like not many big totals. The biggest I'm seeing right now is 47, I want to say 47 in the Arizona-Carolina game. And then everything else mid 40s and below. So I guess Cincinnati and Cleveland sitting at 48, but everything else, nothing over 50, nothing like the Lions and Bills from last week. I mean, nothing really stands out until we start diving in and looking at some of this pricing. Injury stuff doesn't look like there's anything significant that we're waiting on at this point. Obviously that can change, but looks somewhat clean, I'd say, for being on Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, in week 16, like you said, it's always trickier, but we'll keep you covered here and we'll go game by game. Maddie does bring up a good point. It's also that time of the season where if you can find something and feel good about it, you can certainly just roll with it based on that, weather, dome games, things like that. But realistically, still 11 games, a lot to break down. That's just a way to shrink it down for yourself and make it a little bit easier in some cases. But Hoop, let's start it off. We got the Browns at the Bengals. I think Jameis got benched at the end of that game this past week, right? It was just not a good scene for him again. And Bengals get it rolling. They were in Tennessee. I was in Nashville, so I was in Tennessee as well. But lots of Titans fans, lots of Houday fans around, kicking around Broadway, and Bengals get it done. It just was in the the worst way for how we kind of stacked it up, right? You didn't have.
Well, it was looking good. It was looking good for a while. It was looking good in the first half. I mean, they were cruising. Burrow was my quarterback last week in my core. He was like the main guy I wanted to get exposure to. First half looking great. And then you start introducing pick sixes, which is what happens with Will Levis, and the offense is going to get shut down because they have a big lead. So unfortunate run out. I think it was the right play, definitely being on Burrow in the passing. I mean, they're just passing at such a high rate. I mean, look at the 76%. Like that's big. That's big time. You've got 2 guys that he loves throwing to, and the running back, and multiple tight ends. Like, I anticipate I'm going to be on him in a big way this week. I guess him slowing down a little bit fantasy point wise, kept his price in check this week. Nothing crazy. 75 on DK, 83 on FanDuel. I imagine I'll be back on Burrow in a big way this week in the passing attack. And, with the Jameis stuff, it was cute for a few weeks, but that might be, we might be done at this point. But the nice part is there's always run backs. We got to see what's up with Tillman. If he's out, you can go back to Judy. Judy's been, big games for Jerry Judy. Elijah Moore, got to see what's up with Njoku, but there's always run backs on the Cleveland side. So this is a game I anticipate as of Tuesday afternoon being pretty high on when it comes Sunday.
Yeah, and we'll have to wait and see. This is actually not even for sure yet. He not only got benched, but they still haven't named for week 16 as of right now, even 17 minutes ago. So it could be DTR at the helm. I don't know if it's official anywhere else, but the news that I'm looking at was still not official that he's going to be back in. But Bengals D against either of them could be fine. It'll probably be popular, though. I'll let you know that right now at 3,300. People aren't going to shy away from that. And that was actually what was interesting about last week was Chase Brown. When you weren't playing Burrow stacks, I liked Burrow stacks too, but when you weren't in on them, to go to Chase Brown, but you could have paired the Bengals D up with it as a way to get unique with him. And it was going against, 8 minutes ago on Underdog. Jordan just said it. DTR, the starter. There you go. So, yeah, that solves that, right? It makes it pretty tricky. The other thing I'll say with this one, Hoop, quickly.
Definitely worse for the game. It's definitely worse for the game.
Yeah. That, which is another thing I was going to actually just say, too, was the other thing that screwed up last week, because I was with you. The Burrow stacks were rolling, and then they had the stupid field goal at the end of the half where they couldn't go for another try, and then the defense got involved. So it kind of just shut down the scoring, and that could be the case here as well. DGen, our guy James, has talked about this plenty of times on this very first look show, is yes, the offense still looks good. Yes, there's a big total. Yes, there's run backs. But if the other side can't keep up, and Hoop just called it right away there, that can be a bit of an issue, and that can really cap the ceiling. Yeah. The other thing I'll say quick, and we can move on, Hoop, is your call from last week was still a great call, and it was awesome for the player himself. But Judy kind of reminds me of that this week, is Scary Terry. You called him twice in a row now, two huge games. Last week, we said he would need a 2-touchdown game and everything to go with it to matter. He got that, and then still wasn't needed just because the nature of the slate and the Jets-Jags game. But it's crazy that a guy like Judy and a guy like Scary Terry, they need that type of huge game, and then they still maybe not be needed, right? Just because the way the slate breaks out. So it's really tricky to get that stuff right, and something that you got to think about here. But it's almost $7K now for Judy all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's a big boy price tag. He's been great, but it is a massive downgrade to the passing attack for the Browns, and the game stack overall is way, way less appealing with this, whoever the hell, what's his name? DT. Yeah, we'll just stick with DTR. Yeah. He sucks. He's not a good quarterback. Bad quarterback for sure, and it's unfortunate for the pass catchers and that game. Yeah,
Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And then this is could be the move. It will be the move. Everybody just does this. So get ready for Bengals $3,300 chalk. Doesn't mean it's bad. It's a great spot probably, because I don't think they keep him in check that much. They can't run. They should be down in the game. So it's going to be chalky, but if it works, it works. You can get different in other places. That's certainly something to take away. Let's move on. Let's go to the Giants at the Falcons. And you had the mini Kirk Cousins rant to start it off. You can keep it rolling if you want on that one, but certainly looks like a really good spot for Bijan Robinson, $8,100. He, by the way, was the lone star in that game. I guess London kind of had his touchdown and some yards, but Bijan still looks good to me every time I watch him, and 8,100, pretty fair. Great matchup. You see the D+ on the screen, 8.5-point favorites at home. He should be popular too with Gibbs if people can get there. But what's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, nothing on the Giants side. They're projected to score 16 real-life points. Falcons defense, Bijan, Drake London, and that's it. Kirk Cousins, man, he just unathletic white dude. Some of those plays last night, struggling to hand the ball off to the running back. He just looks like just a gump back there. It's to me falling off pretty quickly, and I just can't play him. So it's Bijan, Falcons defense, and just Drake London, the only thing that's standing out here.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see if anyone gets to the Falcons D as much. Obviously, I say it nobody can, some will. What I mean is when you have a $3,300 Bengals we just talked about, when you have a $3,900 Ravens fail so badly last week when everybody loved the pay-up defense for once, do you think that the Falcons could just go overlooked here? Because I actually think it's a great spot, and the Giants will have to be chucking. I do believe that. So a way to cut into the Robinson ownership that I'm assuming he'll get could be via the Falcons D. Do you think many people will pay up this week, Hoop?
Yeah, potentially, because these teams, they look pretty good. I mean, we just talked about the Bengals, the Falcons, 8.5-point favorites at home against this Giants team. I think people will pay up this week more so than they have in the past.
Yeah, and Joanne called it out. This is just a product of certain slates, but the other thing is, also a product of their stack. And while Jaden Daniels had a good day, it's like when it's attached to that, that's just going to, most those McLaurin lineups, because they're very limited as is with such a low ownership on him, are attached to Jaden Daniels. So you're just not going to see it as much. Certainly spots where he could have just slotted in, no problem. I'm just saying that's kind of the tricky part to it all. There's more of a balance.
The theory on McLaurin has been great. I mean, like we've talked about it, like he's unowned every week. He has multiple touchdown upside. I mean, more weeks than not, you score 2 touchdowns at the wide receiver position. Like it's going to be the play. You just had so many guys go off. That Lions game, you had Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Games go off, it kind of cancels it out, but it doesn't cancel out how good the play was and the call. Yes. I mean, that's the key you have to remember. It just doesn't always work out that way, but there was probably lineups that still had, the stack from the Jags and Jets game that you could have just filled him in for one of the others and picked up the same points and have yourself a secondary piece versus double stacking Rodgers, for example. You could add him with one Adams, McLaurin instead of Wilson, and then spent a little bit elsewhere and been just fine. It's just a product of how the lineups are built out for somebody solo owned. Okay, let's move on to Cardinals at the Panthers. Interesting, I guess. I don't know. Maybe. But what do you think on this one?
The tough part here for me with the Cardinals, it's like I've tried to make the passing attack work like all season long from a stack perspective, like Kyler with Marvin Harrison, with Trey McBride, and like has it worked? Has it ever been the stack like this season? Because I don't think it has.
I don't think so. No, we've definitely talked about it a lot with the Kyler stuff, but hasn't happened.
Played it a lot, and it just has not gotten there. And it could get there for sure, but it's like we got 11 games. Like I just don't know if I want to get there. James Conner, I think, is a phenomenal play in this game. Had a big game last week. He could definitely follow it up. Trey McBride, you can just always play. I mean, he's just so good in so many different game scripts, and that's the key with a guy like him. Like they're playing from behind. Like he just gets all the dump offs, and it's Kyler's first read. And if they're playing with the lead, he can get work, like red zone work. He's just such a key guy for fantasy. So Connor McBride for sure. I just don't know if I'm going to get to the stack stuff. And then on the Panthers side, I don't know. Probably nothing. Who knows? I have no
get it right. Coker came in last week, had that huge play, so that kind of boosted him up. But besides that, like Hubbard was popular last week, and
very popular.
It started. What do you have? Like 7 carries and 3 catches earlier, and you're like, oh man, maybe this guy is going to go off, and it was over. It was dead there. Dowdle was needed. The Dallas D, not needed, but those are the ones that you wanted out of that game. They sort of came through instead. It was complete opposite of what most were on. This matchup is obviously very good. We just saw what Dowdle did. You talked about the game that James Conner just had. They could just go back to that very easily. The McBride anytime touchdown, if you've been betting it, I don't even think you can get whole on it unless you just jam like 10K down or something because you've been betting it all season. He still has no touchdown. So
that's a touchdown.
I think it's the whole season, right?
Really?
Yeah, I thought so.
That explains why the Kyler stacks haven't worked out at all.
Yeah,
0 touchdowns. Yeah,
maybe he had a rushing touchdown at one point. I think it's no passing. Someone can look it up. I'm pretty sure it's no receiving touchdown this season, but he might have 1 rushing or something. But the point is, price wise, Kyler went up $100. Marvin Harrison Jr. went down $100, so that cancels out. And then McBride went up, I think, $200 from 6K. So if you do want to stack it up, you still can. I guess the only interesting thing to me early in the week would be if everyone goes James Conner. I'm not against trying to make the stack work one more time, especially game theory wise, that I can play Hubbard, who is flop lag from last week. Nobody's playing Hubbard this week at 6,800 when you can play James Conner in the same game at 71. It's just not going to happen. They're done with it. They're over it. So I would flip this build, and I'll make note of that and just think about it later as the week goes on. But I'm not thrilled about it. I'm just saying if I'm looking at ways to get different early on, that does kind of entice me. And they have almost a 26-point team total for Arizona. I don't know how else they're getting there, but it would have to just be another huge James Conner game. I'm interested in James Conner. And if he gets super popular at 7,100, then I'm going to be interested in flipping the build a little bit. So I will note that. Here's your team. Hoop Lions at the Bears. Lions, Tigers in Detroit, and Bears. Oh my. All right, what are we doing with this one? Lions at the Bears. Give me your thoughts. We just talked.
Yeah, we talked about the David Montgomery injury. I mean, it's definitely a massive boost for Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, he's going to be a phenomenal play this week and probably for the rest of the season until they jack the price way up, and it's not way up. I mean, 7,500, 83. No, yeah, they will mix in Reynolds, and I think there's another dude. I can't think of his name right now, Vaggy or something like that. They'll get a little work, but in a close game, it's going to be all Gibbs. So very interested in him. And then without Montgomery, you have to imagine they pass a little bit more. So I'm very interested in the Jared Goff stuff. I mean, it's to me a little underpriced. Amon-Ra St. Brown still under 8K for some reason. Jameson Williams 5.5. Our guy Timmy Patrick, Laporta. Very interested in the Lions offense without Montgomery. All these prices are probably going up because with Gibbs, he's going to get, if not all the work, a large majority. And you have to imagine they lean on the pass a little bit more with Montgomery out. So really like the Lions stuff. And you have clear run backs on the other side. DJ Moore, Adunze, Keenan Allen, I think, are all phenomenal run backs in the Detroit Lions stack. And I don't even hate Caleb Williams. I just shit on him earlier, talked about how bad he looked. That is true. But this Lions defense is beat up. Like, he should be able to get something going here offensively. He looked really bad last night, but this Lions defense is so beat up. Like, any sort of quarterback should be able to find some sort of success. So really like this game, I'd say overall, both sides, all the pieces. Not super interested in a guy like DeAndre Swift, but I like the passing stuff and I like Gibbs here. I think this is going to be a very key game this week for DFS.
Massive leverage play here in the D Swift revenge game, right?
Yeah,
Did he originally play for the Lions before the Eagles?
Yeah, they probably like to have him back right now after the Montgomery injury.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of last night when I was like, damn, I saw it pop up was one of the things. But I guess that's just one little take. But my thoughts would be your stuff there. This game could get sneaky by the end of the week. The most obvious is the Gibbs stuff because of the Montgomery news. But you got to remember too, it's not like they've been jamming this guy. We know they can. He's so good. They could jam him 30 times in this game. I'm just not certain that they actually will. And I think what you said, we've seen it before where they just end up passing it a bunch more. These guys can all catch balls, man. Even Tim Patrick, and by the way, too, Laporta has shown up a little bit more recently. Even last game, a couple games before, like he's been in the mix. So if there is any back and forth here, this game could end up pretty sneaky. It's outdoors. It's in Chicago. Obviously, we'd like it better in Detroit, but that's just the location of the game. That's why the totals are kept in check a little bit versus imagine if this was in Detroit right now with these defenses in this spot and everything like that. So I'm okay with it. We'll have to see how weather is as the week goes on, but I like it.
One thing to add on with Gibbs, I mean, you got to think every single game this season, he started on the bench for the first drive. It's been all David Montgomery. First drive on Sunday, his ass is going to be out there. There's no way around it. He will be out there. So do I think he gets 30 carries? Absolutely not. He's almost certain, though, to get more work and more reps. So that's the reason. But I love the passing attack for the Lions. I think
which Gibbs can go into that as well. Like what people are going to do here is try and talk themselves out of Gibbs. That's again, he'll be probably the highest owned on the slate. Maybe early look right now, maybe like a James Conner or something gets popular because 7,100 and how good he's been in the matchup we just saw Dowdle go against. But just in general, what people will do is try and move to the passing stack or move to the Caleb Williams stuff or something else in this game when you're allowed to play Gibbs with Jared Goff, like certainly priced fine to do so. And then also to your point, just if you are moving off it, I don't mind the passing game. And I just think there is a possibility where Gibbs gets you, 18 and maybe isn't needed because we have a couple 25 to 30 pointers out there. And that's the way you get around it if you set up the passing stack. So I'm with you. I really like the passing stack here. That includes Gibbs for me, but I think all of St. Brown, Williams, Patrick, Laporta are good. And on the other side, it's always harder to figure out which guy it will be. He literally threw those 100-mile-an-hour fastballs at Keenan Allen's helmet all night. And then Allen was like, what the hell do you want me to do? He scored the touchdown, didn't celebrate. They shouldn't. They're losing. DJ Moore didn't even celebrate. He was standing right beside him, not mad that he didn't get it, just didn't celebrate. And then Allen went to the sideline and smashed his helmet off the ground after scoring a touchdown. He's just over it. Like that drive, the game, the passing, all that stuff. So interested to see how that one goes. I think it's kind of sneaky early on. Let's go to the next one here. Titans at the Colts. two teams that have been pretty tricky to get right unless you played, Nick Westbrook-Akine stuff that we've made fun of enough all season. So I'm not even worried about it. But yeah, this game, pretty tough for me to pick some spots. What do you got?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this could just end up being like a cross-off game. I mean, it's a strong candidate to be a cross-off game. I mean, I think Ridley is a guy you can consider. I don't see myself playing much Pollard here. Colts are with Anthony Richardson in. Colts have just been a very tricky team. It takes a lot away from Jonathan Taylor. The passing attack is weak. I don't know. This is a I don't know game at this point in the week. I definitely will be way underweight. No, not like anyone's going to be popular, but I just don't even know if I'll have any pieces maybe outside of Ridley at this point.
Yeah, it's a tough one to get to and find ways. I like the Ridley call. I guess he's the guy that's sort of like your London stuff earlier. Don't care who the quarterback is for the Titans. Yeah. I'll just still consider a guy like Ridley because at 5,700, we know what he's capable of, the snap counts, the targets he's still getting. It's whether or not they're catchable balls, but still he's out there. Way harder to figure out the Colts side. And Jonathan Taylor, I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but letting go of the ball again, like, come on, guys. Just 2 times in the same weekend, somebody dropped it off on the same Sunday. It happens all too often. Literally, all you have to do, one job, hold the ball until you're in the end zone. There is no reason to drop it, ever. Just, once you're done and it's been celebrated, are you ready to celebrate? Sure. But the early celebration stuff is just crazy, dropping a football like that. So we'll see 23.5 for the Colts at home. I guess we'll have to keep an eye on it, but just not a lot right now. Richardson naked. I don't know, if you think he's going to show up here against this team, but this team can get after you too. So it's tough to say. I don't have a lot of love for this game right now. What about this next one though, Hoop? Because Rodgers broke the slate last week with the Mac Jones back and forth. What about when he gets going here against the Rams? Any thoughts on this one? Total's not terrible, but it's not amazing. But still, just thoughts. There's a lot of passing between these teams.
Yeah, it's difficult. Obviously, Devontae Adams, the big week. Aaron Rodgers, like, could it go back to Garrett Wilson this week? I don't know. He just seems so incentivized just to jam it to Devontae Adams. I mean, the team's an absolute disaster. Everyone assume that Devontae Adams coming to the Jets and everything was going to be fixed and they're going to get back on track. It never happened. Talked about it last week. I don't know which show we were on, but it's like Aaron Rodgers is incentivized to just continue to pepper Devontae Adams. So probably just stay on him. I mean, the price is still cheap, 7,100. I'm not going to stack Aaron Rodgers, not going to play him. But on the Rams side, Cooper Kupp, all-time low price tag, probably like 6,500. And the main concern with Cooper Kupp is the same conversation we've kind of been having. It's like Matthew Stafford loves to lock in on one guy. His entire career with the Lions was Calvin Johnson. No one else mattered. Like, is that now the Puka situation where it's just all Puka, no one else matters? I will be playing Cooper Kupp this week. I can tell you that at 65, and I just can't fade Puka at 8K. So I'll be in on this. When it comes to Matthew Stafford, I'll have to see if I need like a cheap quarterback, but definitely in on those pass catchers. Puka, Kupp. I think Devontae Adams is still a good play. I mean, there's no reason for Rodgers to not continue to target Adams. So I think he's still fine even after the big week, but not really messing with the running backs here. Probably not messing with the quarterbacks. It's just going to be those wide receivers.
I wanted to see real quick. Do you know, I think Breece Hall got in the box last week, but what else did he do? I was trying just to pull up real quick with the Jets schedule so I could see it. Jets, who did they play last week? The Jags?
So he only 9 carries, 2 receptions, and he did find the end zone on the ground for 13 points. I just think they are going to continue to pass. So I agree.
I just look at it as, this is the other thing. This is one that always goes overlooked. That's why we love the Stone over here. If you're not a member of SHIPIT Nation, you're certainly missing out. We hide it on Sundays until we get a certain number of engagement, that sort of stuff. But realistically, one thing we've noticed all season with this spot is when you get the 2 teams with the same grades, and everyone just goes to what's the most recent, what's the most likely grade. I love the pass game here, and I think the way I would do it is probably what you said. It's cheap enough on Stafford and Kupp that I can actually still fit Nakua and just hope that you get that same sort of situation from last week that I can run those 3, and then I can pick Adams on the way back. But one of the other interesting ways that I'm just seeing now, and I know this always goes overlooked, is Breece Hall, 6,100 I feel like at one point he was trending for 8,500 this season. We're like, man, this guy just is insane. I know there was some in-between stuff and back now and not as many carries as you'd like to see. But realistically, they didn't need him to do much last game. They could throw all over them at will. You could do the same here. But at home, people talk about back in the cold. Our guy Nick, shout out LSU Nick, said Rodgers back in the cold with his old bones. No, thank you. Maybe that's the case, right? And they get running the ball and Breece Hall does his thing and then the Rams got to come back. So I kind of like that part of it as well. What is it? 46.5 points. It's not the lowest total. So yeah, interesting spot. Excited for this one though. I think the Eagles are a team, shout out to your Lions. I think they were the best team. These injuries are starting to rack up.
Yeah.
These Eagles look very good right now, and they look good at every position, and they've shown anything you want to see, they'll prove it. Like, I know it was the squeaky wheel, which we called last week, and we knew that was going to come around with A.J. Brown, but it just showed again. They don't even need Barkley. He threw a touch, he got both Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown involved and said, there you go. We can do it without Barkley, too. We can do it with me. We can do it with him. We can do it with them, and their defense showing up as well. Now it's going to be Hurts versus Jaden Daniels. What's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so I mean the Eagle stuff it's a very good offense. I mean, so many ways to go about it. They can, like you said, they can do it with Barkley on the ground and he catches passes too. They can do it with Hurts in the air on the ground, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith. So many options. I'm going to keep playing these expensive quarterbacks because when it comes time to build teams, it is difficult to play. As soon as you pair Hurts with AJ Brown, you're kind of strapped for cash a little bit, and people just aren't playing it. So I'm going to stay on some of these more expensive stacks. I want to be on all parts of the Eagles offense. The problem though, with run backs on the Commander set, what's up? Is Brian Robinson? Is there an injury thing with him?
I don't think so. No.
We'll get that updated, get him on there. But Eagles are a much more difficult team. Talked about Scary Terry. I mean, I'm going to just keep playing him. I'm sure he's going to be very low owned again this week. No one plays him. But outside of him, it's really tough to get excited about much on the Commander side. Like I said, the Eagles defense has been very, very solid. So I don't anticipate playing Washington at a very high rate this week. But I do like the Eagles stuff initially here.
Yeah, an early look. I'm probably dead if Washington shows up. I just can't imagine getting to any of this stuff. Even I guess Daniels would be somewhat interesting, but then it's like you're almost just playing him. I'm not trying to figure out the rest of these guys. I don't really love the stack of almost 15K for him and McLaurin. There's tons of other ways to go. I'd rather pay the difference and get it on the other side. I think you could see Barkley be interesting here because what did we see earlier? We saw Gibbs at 75. We saw Bijan at 81. Like, I don't know. What do you think here? Bijan is 8,100 at home, 8.5-point favorites against the Giants, or Barkley for 83. I think Bijan gets the ownership, right?
Probably. Yeah, probably. I think I do agree with you. That's a good point. Yeah.
So I think I like Barkley. Definitely, again, just using the stone as one spot, but not just that. It's more of, okay, we showed what we can do with these guys now. I don't know if they're going to have to because I don't know what we're doing here. Like these
Division
guys
game on the road too. I think that's a thing that the teams look at. So maybe it is Barkley. I do like the Barkley stuff. That's a good call.
I also think I might, early in the week, I hate doing this because we'll see how the line goes. We got time, but I also think I like the under. I don't give a lot of sports betting takes, but that's one where Hurts versus Daniels, we expect this game just to go off, right? Like it has to be that way, but realistically, it's best if both these teams in a division battle just keep the game on the ground, keep the other one off the field, and if that's what gets it there, then so be it. But early on in the week, I think that's another thing to think about. So I like the Barkley thoughts early on. We'll see how it goes. Devonta Smith, 5,800, looked pretty good last week, and you could put him together with Hurts if you wanted to there and go with that. Hurts under 8K, but just depends on what the rest of the build brings. Rest of the week brings for the builds, what I'm trying to say. See how you can build out from there. So let's move on. Let's go to the Vikings at the Seahawks, and how the Geno injury is bad, right? I got to look it up again. That was, I think, the one that we got the most trouble with of all those injuries.
Yeah. You're positive. Hope to see him practice. Oh, so there's hope that he practices this week, which
as they're optimistic. So I thought that one was the worst of all the ones we saw. Besides, the only thing about the Mahomes one, which isn't on this slate, it's on the Saturday game with the 2-gamer, is that it's quick turnaround. And why would they if they can just roll it out there without him? But I thought the Geno one might be worse than it is. So we'll see what happens with him. But let's talk about this game because that passing defense, you can go against them. Obviously, Caleb Williams couldn't figure it out last night, but we talked about that already. So what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, so I mean, you look at it here on the stone, and the way to beat the Vikings is through the air. Geno banged up though. I mean, there's no way it's probably 100%. I can't imagine. That would be the one concern. But if you are playing Geno, I mean, the stack's pretty easy. I mean, it's like JSN or DK Metcalf. Then you have clear run backs on the other side. A lot of guys that you can play: Jefferson, Addison, Aaron Jones, TJ Hawkinson. You can play. There's a lot of run backs on the Vikings side. In regards to the Vikings, it's moderate interest. I'd say the one thing early on in the week, it looks like this could be some weather here. I mean, Seattle is obviously notorious for the rain. Looks like there's a chance for rain all game. So that is one thing to keep an eye on. This total is already low at 42. So maybe that's enough to like push me off this game, but there are clear plays if you want to be here. I mean, the Geno stacks are easy. You know who to stack them with. The Viking stacks, very easy. I mean, a lot of different ways to go. So if you do want to play this one, it's very clear the path to go. I don't know, come Sunday, if I'm going to be on this one. Low total. Maybe it is because of the rain. 42.5 with two competent offenses. That kind of scares me a little bit that this total is already at 42.
I just got to make sure this is right. DK Metcalf is $5,500. I know he's been bad, but that just seems wildly low for this spot. So
what is the price?
5,500.
Yeah, that's very. It's gonna be cheap. Guys,
they can pop, man. So I don't know. I'm gonna be thinking about this one. I got to mark this one down to come back and circle. And I know like people say, oh, but he's been horrible. Week 16 is not every other week. So I actually don't care at all. It just depends on.
They need to win too. They need to win.
Yeah. I just think we could see it bounce back. And the other thing too, we have to wait and see on this, but I know he practiced yesterday was Kenneth Walker, right? Charbonnet's been in the mix for them doing a good job, but Walker was back at practice yesterday. And I'm not interested at all in Walker, but I'm interested if more of the team is coming back and getting healthy and coming back together, because those are the things that open up the holes in the spots for some of these pass catchers. And a guy like Metcalf at 5,500, that seems pretty wild. So we'll have to wait and see. But usually it would be a good spot. If Geno was healthy here, I think there'd be even more interest. But it's all about what it fits in your build and that type of double stack or something along those lines, and then pick a run back here. It's, whatever you want to do. I don't hate it. So we'll keep an eye on this one here and go as the week goes on. Let's go to the Patriots at the Bills. Josh Allen, almost 9K now, Hoop. So you got to talk to us about this one. Oh.
Yeah, all right, back in action. That's the one thing that definitely stands out in this game. I mean, Josh Allen has obviously been going off and, at relatively low ownership. Now they're 14-point favorites at home. The price is at an all-time high. Just can't imagine anyone gets to him this week. So I think we're almost guaranteed to have a low-owned Josh Allen. Like, do I play it this week? I don't know. It's Tuesday, but I feel pretty confident saying that he's going to come in low owned despite just going off recently. If people are going to play this game, they're going to want to do the James Cook paired with the Bills defense. The Patriots are projected to score 16. Bills projected to score 30. So main takeaway here is definitely, despite Josh Allen going off, like probably pretty low on this week because of the big spread.
The Patriots side feels impossible, but Hunter Henry, baby, I always can play him. For 4,100, they don't move his price. But the other side is more interesting in more of the perspective of what you said. The price, people thinking he's going to be out of the game early, like it'll be done by the third quarter. The thing is, he could have 35 by then, and you're really comparing him and you're playing him over, the guys we talked about, Bijan, and you can probably find ways to get them all. I'm just saying, but in reality, it feels like it would be harder for Saquon to get 30 than it would for Josh Allen. And I know then you have to compare the other stuff, but I'm saying, like, in reality, even if they do get their 30 by halftime, Allen might have 2 rushing and 2 passing plus yards and all that stuff on the ground and through the air. So I don't think I'm going to be fully ignoring it. I still, Coleman came back last week, got a touchdown, sort of muddied it up a little bit, but Shakir was still involved. They kept his price in check. Cooper is 5,200. So, maybe these could be some of the pivots to the guys we talked about earlier in that range. Don't hate it, and you don't need to run it back. You could just run it with Allen and one other. You could run Allen naked, whatever you want to do. But I think depending on how the rest of the slate goes and shakes out as the week goes on, it's not like we've been in love with these other quarterbacks here, right? Like, do you feel better about $7,800 Jalen Hurts against Washington in a division game on the road? Or do you feel better about 3/4 of Josh Allen? I actually feel better about the price difference in Josh Allen, I think.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, I think I'm with you. Yeah, probably Josh Allen. Because I agree. I think there is a route for that other game to be ugly.
Which is, that's again how I'm looking at it too, which is an interesting thought. But this is, we always hate the guys with 2 O's in their name that can be turned into zeros, like Amari Cooper, because it's been done plenty of times on different teams, many seasons. It's just rough. But again, only takes one game, and 5,200. Look, 2 zeros in the pricing too. But you're hoping that it's more like 20, or maybe we'll get a 52-pointer out of Amari Cooper. Anything we can get out of this team, though, I think will be interesting. The other thing was, Hoop, that you just reminded me of was last week at the live final, I was at the live final, but that's sort of people asked about how the winner, it was Chipotle Addict, had no Buffalo and Detroit. And that was kind of interesting because now we're talking about Buffalo, and someone you mentioned about like this Eagles Commanders game, and maybe someone likes certain spots. But if you are going to fade a spot like that and hope that it spreads out, or even if it goes nuclear, you're not going to need any of it. You need to do something else with your lineup. And his lineup was a 5-man game stack from the Jets Jags. So again, he had multiple entries. Putting that on one of his lineups, not a problem. But I'm saying that is the point. If you're going to go there, that's kind of what you need to happen. That game to shoot out, and then the other one to spread out a bit, where it was kind of tough. Like Shakir, Cooper, like none of those guys really did anything besides, I guess, Amon-Ra was kind of a incredible. Gibbs, yes, but with the other running backs that went off, pricey, not really needed. So just keeping that stuff in mind, I think you can get to the Bills here and just, hammer a couple spots and move on. Jags at the Raiders. We've got 2 games left. Jags at the Raiders is the second last. What are you doing with this one?
One thing to keep an eye on throughout the week is the Sincere McCormick dude. Got hurt last night, didn't come back, so we might have some cheap running backs here for the Raiders, and probably the best spot they're going to have for the rest of the season at home against Jacksonville. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. I think Myers and Bowers always kind of in the conversation. Brian Thomas on the other side, 14 targets last week. I think he's a clear play. But yeah, you got to kind of wait and see what's up with McCormick, which is kind of weird that that is pretty substantial injury news this week, because it seemed like it was probably more Abdullah. I mean, just at the eye test in terms of who was out there. Yeah, I think it was kind of him. 7 targets, like that's big time. So something to keep an eye on for sure. But you have a clear play on the other side, and Brian Thomas, just the team sucks, the Jaguars, but he's getting all the attention in terms of targets. So he's a solid option, and we got to wait on McCormick.
Yeah, definitely want to wait on that news. I think the quarterback matters too. So they didn't dress O'Connell last night. He was the third emergency. Like obviously if he goes out, he's allowed to come in. But Ritter was just checking it down like crazy to Abdullah. He was looking for him on almost every play. And it's like his automatic thought is he's not going to want to take the hit or look bad. So just get the ball out. And that's even one of them was a passing touchdown to Abdullah last night, right? So if you go back and watch it, check the highlights, that was the setup there. So I think just noting that Abdullah would be somewhat interesting. He'll get popular if that would to be the case, but got to keep an eye on the McCormick news and the starting quarterback. I think I like him better if Ritter would be in there again. So we'll have to wait and see. The other side, it's just Brian Thomas Jr., keeps rolling. Brenton Strange, what's the Evan Ingram update? Because that was crazy for Strange last week.
Let's see.
Out the remainder of the season, right? Yeah.
He's out. Yeah. Yep.
So Strange got no real price bump. What was he last week? 2,500.
Yeah,
so
12 targets.
I shouldn't say that. I think because he was 25. I'm pretty sure last week. Yeah, he was, but he went up 1,000. But still, that's not a price bump for what they used him like. So I'm pretty confident he'll stay popular at that price, and then have to think about it again. But I guess that would be the thing if you're going like Thomas Jr., Strange. And then, you got Abdullah or Myers or something on the other side. That's kind of the only thing I could think about. Bowers seemed to be a little bit out of the mix last night, eh? Like, I didn't see him too involved. What was the situation with him?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're running a lot of 2 tight end stuff, and that Mayer's involved a little bit more. I'm assuming it's like, all right, we've got nothing to play for. Like, let's pump the brakes a little bit. But you never know. I mean, when you have these really shitty quarterbacks playing, such as Ritter, it's like it's going to be hard to get things going through the air. So tough situation to read, but he's not as appealing as he was like 3 weeks ago when he was getting nonstop peppered every single game.
And the game's not as appealing to the same point you brought up earlier at the top of the show with the Browns Bengals. If one side can't move it or keep it rolling, it doesn't make it as enticing. You also may see some chasing over here. A lot of people missed out on the thought process last week of putting it all together, like playing, the Aaron Jones with these guys, Aaron Rodgers with his pass catchers and these guys, or Mac Jones with Thomas Jr. and Strange, and then using Adams on the other side. So people may be chase happy here as well, just to run back to it. And it may not be a good spot if the game doesn't play out that way. So, or like play out where there is a back and forth. I'm saying obviously it's dead. It's useless if you don't have it play out the way you need it to. But if that team doesn't come to show up here, the Raiders, you'd be in big trouble. 49ers at the Dolphins to round this one out. Hoop, give me your thoughts on this. Tyreek 6,900.
69, baby. That's interesting price tag for sure. Waddle potentially out, right? What's the deal with Waddle? Is he out, or he got hurt? Waddle, officially questionable. That the knee injury sustained is not major, not surgery related. Still sounds pretty bad though. So yeah, it could be like all
saying avoided long term and avoided major, but they're not saying anything about week 16.
Probably out, and then this Malik Washington guy could be a play. Achan could potentially be a play. I mean, it is a 46 total. You got Juwan Jennings on the other side. Potentially Kittle. Got to see what's up at running back. This could be like sneaky. This could be a sneaky type game. You got options on both sides in play. Two offenses that in the past have been very successful. This is a game that I'm definitely going to keep my eye on throughout the week and see what it looks like in terms of ownership and the injury situation. So I think early on, somewhat appealing here.
Yeah, and one more interesting thing for sure would be the Tyreek stuff. Obviously, you can just play him by himself at 6,900. But I don't think as many people will want to get to Tua after he hurt a lot of feelings last week, right? So the flop leg on Tua and just comboing them up, and if you want to add a third or not, and then run it back. But with crazy the Waddle injury, you have to wait and see how that plays out. And even the backup that came in for them, Grant Dubose, that got super hurt, man. Obviously Malik Washington is there, but that would make him, at $3,700 a play as well. So if you're going to think about those couple guys, Jonnu Smith is still there at just 55. Like if you got Tua at 6, Tyreek at 69, and even Smith at 55, that is a cheap stack. On the 49ers side, do you like Jennings the best, do you think? Or what's
he just looks like the guy. Debo just looks like ass, but he's down to 5,200. So somewhat appealing. I mean, dropped the touchdown. I think that was a primetime game. But 52 for Debo seems really, really cheap. Really, I don't know. I'll be curious to see what sort of ownership that comes in at.
Yeah.
But it's been bad, man. It has been really bad. Does not look like the same player.
Colin James is very mad. He's a big-time Vikings fan in here. He says, smashed all the good teams early in the season. I mean, this is standard stuff, Colin. I think you probably are a fan and been watching for a while, but strength of schedule certainly matters in the NFL. And then you find out when your team gets dominated come the playoffs and they're done. So tell us what your take is on that, because the over 6.5 wins is fine, but it's if you're cheering for your team and all that, that's what I'm saying. It's tougher to get to when you get to the playoffs, and they got to do something there. And I just don't see a path. So we'll have to wait and see. The Debo thing is interesting a little bit. I was just going to say, because if Metcalf becomes a thing, obviously you're allowed to play both, but if Metcalf at 55 becomes the chalk there, super popular is just a one-off or something in that game. And if, Geno's not right, or if anything's wrong there and you're not stacking up, that's the thing, Hoop. I would prefer Geno to be good and playing, good to go, and then run Metcalf where if it is a big day for Metcalf, it goes with Geno and I can at least collect some points on both sides correlated, versus I don't mind the Tua, Jonnu, Tyreek, and then run it back with Debo at 52 and just hope that it's, he finally has that game and comes around. It's just so cheap for that. So I think that's kind of more how.
Imagine that stack last year trying to play like Tua, Tyreek Hill, and Debo together. You know what I'm saying? Like it would be like, I don't know, $4,000 more dollars than it is like right now. You think about it. I mean, Debo was like 7,000 last year. Tyreek was 8,000, 9,000. Tua was 7,000. You're talking like $5,000 difference.
I appreciate it, Colin. Yeah, we got to chirp each other for sure. It's definitely different though. That's where, like someone said, we're talking about DFS here, but yeah, I appreciate you always sticking up for your team. That's the way it should be. I'm with my boy Wahlberg here. Justin says, as a Vikings fan myself, we always let down. That's me, buddy, with the Ravens. So I can't talk either. Don't worry. It's the exact same situation for me every single year cheering for my team. It's like, just what game are they going to let down? Is it the first round, the second round, whatever the one they can get to, but they're going to let down?
That's the nature of it all. I mean, I've been a Lions fan my entire life, so it could always be worse. Just remind yourself. Been better recently, but man, long-term disappointment.
Yeah, and we like this for sure. Go Collect's always in here helping out. I think that's kind of a good call. That's the other thing that's not looked at enough. It's not really about if you think Tyreek's going to have a huge game or that you need that to happen, but when you're building, you're looking at, what am I building myself into here? And if it's a lot of the other good plays, what type of stacks fit? And that's why I always try and tell people too. So many people start with the quarterback. I'm talking hand builders. They say, Hoop, all the content we do is for MME. You can apply it. You can extrapolate it out, or you can pull it back in, whatever you choose to do. But if you're looking at a 1 to 3 max, everyone goes, all right, so got to start with Tua and build out. Well, and then they get into these spots and they start plugging shit in, and like, well, it kind of makes sense. It correlates. That's step one. Like, do you have any leverage built in? Is there any game theory to what others are doing on the slate? And that's why it's kind of like, sometimes find those plays that you love and that fit in, and then start seeing what the different stacks look like around it. And that's how you see people get to these lineups like last week, where it's Rodgers, Wilson, Adams, Thomas Jr., and Strange, all popular plays in their own way, but not really fully put together that way. So that was unique. And then if you notice, like I was going to talk about this later, but on the live final lineup with Chipotle there, he had James Conner. A lot of people were playing Kyler. He's not on Kyler in that stack, so he plays Conner with the Cardinals defense. He's not on the Joe Burrow stuff. I'm sure he was in other places. These are great spots last week. So what does he do? He plays Chase Brown. So it's all how the lineup shakes out and where you are on your overall roster construction that kind of just fit in perfectly for that lineup. It was a really strong lineup. And then his last spot was Dowdle. And if you're not on the Hubbard chalk, Dowdle was popular too on the other side, but he could literally only fit Dowdle. So why not play that and move it in there, and you're good to roll? And that ended up being the tournament winning lineup. So I just think some of that stuff, it's when you build it out, you can kind of just land in these spots. You don't always have to start at quarterback. Any other thoughts from you on roster construction as a whole, or on this slate at all that you want to go through?
Yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out. I mean, some initial things that definitely stand out is the Lions' passing attack. I mean, they're going to have to go more pass heavy. I think that's one initial read this week. It's something to keep an eye on. The weather in Seattle could impact that game. It's already a low total, sitting at 42, so you want to keep an eye. And then, this 49ers-Dolphins game is a little more interesting than I had anticipated. When you factor in the prices. So those are a few notes. Obviously, we'll have content up throughout the week. We got the Showdown show on Thursday. We got the 2-game slate on Saturday. So a lot of split up slates here for the rest of the season, basically. And then we got the playoffs, which are going to be massive. So if you're not a member, obviously head on over to SHIPITNation.com. BF50 promo code still active. We have our rest of the season prices for NFL, rest of our season, or for football, I should say. It also includes college football, and then rest of the season football packages with the Shiptimizer. $99 for just football, $129 for football with the Optimizer. Best, most affordable price in the industry.
Yeah, love that call. Check it out if you guys aren't in yet. Still a ton of time left, and you'll get a lot of slates for that and be able to get used to everything. And then before we're headed right into golf. So if you do play PGA DFS, we'll have you covered there as well. Something else. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk to you about. Now that we're at the end of the show and we got time, we can just shoot the shit. People can leave if they want. The Dan Campbell. I was away all weekend. I couldn't be involved in this. I didn't even get to watch the follow-ups on it, but I can only imagine. I mean, you're in Detroit. That has to be like the worst of all time that I can remember, isn't it? Like the onside kick with 12 minutes left in the game, down 10. I don't know.
I was fine with it. Like, so me and Title talked about it a little bit yesterday on the Showdown show. Maybe we talked before, but I was fine with it just because they could not stop the Bills' deep offense. Like, they literally could not stop them. So if you punt, we're on an onside kick, worst case scenario, you're thinking, all right, they get the ball at the 50, right? Like, you're not going to assume that the dude tips it to himself and takes it down to the 3. So I'm assuming in his mind, he's saying, all right, worst case scenario, they get it at like the 50-yard line. Well, if you kick it off, they're going to get it at the 25 or 30. And the way the Bills offense was going, that's like one play and they're already back to the 50. So I know everybody is on the opposite side of it, I'm fine with it just because their defense was so bad. They weren't stopping Josh Allen. You get the ball, you're in a much better spot. You don't get it, and they get the ball at the 50. Obviously, it was an incredible play where he tipped it to himself and just took off. So I don't hate it. I know a lot of people are on his ass for it, but I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I guess that's one angle to think about it. Like, again, if you're like there, but it's like, to me, it's a interesting mindset. Obviously, Dan Campbell, a great coach, so hard for me to go against anything. But I'm just saying, like, the mindset of, well, my team's already sucking against the pass. I may as well do this and see. It's like, why not have
it's the truth, though. To me, it's the truth. Yeah.
But I'd rather like a squib kick or like something that at least gives you
the way it's fucked nowadays is where you have to announce the onside kick. It's so stupid. The kickoff rule is just so dumb now. It's like, of course, onside kicks are going to be unsuccessful because you have to announce that you're doing an onside kick. Like, there's no element of surprise like in the past.
So to me, though, that was also a part of what makes it the worst. Is like, now you have to. If he did that, that's what I'm not trying to defend my own side, but it's like if he did that, and when that rule was not like when that rule didn't exist, I would have liked it a lot because then I'm like, okay, this keeps him off guard. The only thing I had that I thought was a good takeaway, and it almost worked, so I know it's results oriented, but it was close, is you kind of knew the setup for next time and in some way to throw them off on the second onside kick when it actually mattered, which it did at the end. They needed that onside kick. So I don't know. I just want to get your take on it, what you hear locally and stuff like that. But he's certainly a mega mind, great coach overall. And he always backs his shit up, so he doesn't care. Like he'll tell you like it is. So he definitely has big balls, like the chat said. He'll go for it. So
he don't give a fuck. Yeah.
The kickoff rules are a bit tough. So
the kickoff rules are what kills all this stuff. I mean, I don't even understand it. There's no logic behind it. It's stupid. And really, it's dumb.
It'll get people all fired up in the comment section before when they watch some replay and stuff, I'm sure. But we'll see. Either way, the Lions got work to do now with some injury stuff, like you said, but they are definitely still one of the top teams out there. I think the Eagles showed out a ton and just keep doing it. Again, just can do it every single way. And obviously the NFC, that's part of why we like the Lions so much. Not just you being a fan, but we just know the NFC is just a spot you can get through if you have a complete team. The Lions just losing a little bit of that completeness, but on the Eagles side looks good. What was your take on the AFC right now? Did you guys talk about that at all with just sort of how it's shaken out?
Man, the Bills look strong. I mean, obviously they went into Detroit and absolutely smoked the Lions never had a chance. I know they're only down by 10 or whatever at the game. They're never winning that game. There's no chance. Like they couldn't stop them. So, I mean, the Bills look very strong, but I mean, everyone's just trying to discount the Chiefs, and I'm not. Like, I mean, if you asked anyone right now who's going to win, who's going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, not many people are going to say the Chiefs because they see what they've done offensively this season. They could have lost some other game. They have the ability to just turn it off and look like a completely different team when the playoffs start. So I am not discounting the Chiefs like a lot of other people, but the Bills look very strong. And I'm also not discounting your Ravens, man. Like they're just kind of going along. I mean, I would not want to – again, I've shit on Lamar a ton. And, the playoff record's not great, but I would not want to face them in the playoffs early on. I definitely would not want to. So I think there's some strong contenders in the AFC.
Yeah, I will say I have one problem with the Ravens. Obviously, I'm a homer, but right now it worries me at least a little bit it's in Lamar's head, I think, of the MVP situation where he's literally having a better year than his MVP year last year. But because the team losses and how good the Bills are, that's why Josh Allen is getting big up than the super favorite, and he should be.
But once you've already won that award, right? Once you've already won it, and you've never won a Super Bowl, you've moved on, right? Mentally,
I would hope so.
On, right? I mean, I'd have to imagine he's over that now. Like, all right, yeah, I got the MVP. Now I got to get my ass to.
Well, he has two. He has two MVPs.
Two of them, yeah, okay. Yeah.
So I mean, he should be fine on that front. I'm just saying, for example, last week. I love the old, Derrick Henry, not just because D. Hember, we beat that joke out of everybody all season. It's been going on forever. But I was saying when you got them in that spot last week and you think about it, it clearly turned to where, Lamar, how does Lamar win the MVP? It's the opposite of Josh Allen. Start throwing 5 touchdowns a game because we know you can run. Throw 5 touchdowns and see what happens. And certainly what he do. He just threw the ball all game long. So it makes you think, obviously the battle last week was Lamar versus an NFC team, which he does pretty well against. So I thought that was kind of interesting how he showed up again. I got it right now though, and maybe everybody has it this way, but for me, if it's early playoff best balls or anything like that, I got the Eagles at the Bills. I really think the Bills are going to get there. And poor Stephon Diggs, he stuck around every other year to watch the celebrations and hope to get in there with the Bills, and he won't be there when the Bills get there this year, and that's my take. So I think it's going to be the Eagles, Bills. I think it would be an awesome Super Bowl. I know it doesn't involve your or my team, but having a Hurts versus if the Eagles keep rolling and the Bills keep rolling and it ends up those two teams, that would be a really good Super Bowl. The Eagles at the Bills, that's a pretty strong back and forth, and it would be a tough one. Who would you bet if that's who it was?
Bills.
Yeah, just keep it rolling.
Josh Allen looks like some of those passes. Like I watched that entire game. Like some of those passes to like shitty dudes, like to Ty Johnson. I mean, Ty Johnson's fine, but like to drop like a deep pass just right in the hands of like a Ty Johnson is very on the run is so impressive. Like it's getting to the point where I just don't know how you defend the guy. Like it just seems he's like a power runner, but a elusive runner at the same time. Great passer, can pass on the run, and it seems very tough to defend him. Like to me, it seems like it could just be the Bills, but I just in the back of my head I just keep seeing Patrick Mahomes there, just like, hey, I'm still here. Like
never Mahomes this time. Finally, this time. I'm not a hater. I'm just saying this guy is the one they're gonna let down at some point. They've had it happen for so long. It's been a crazy season. Good for them. You got to be good to be lucky. I know everyone keeps saying how they're so lucky. No, good teams get lucky. It happens. And they're certainly
another thing that scares me though a little bit with the Bills is like, man, their coach is like a closet moron. Like he's not like he makes some dumbass decisions. Like, and it could cost them. Andy Reid is clearly the top of the top. Like in the playoffs, I think that stuff could matter.
It definitely does. And you can tell I've been away for a little bit, wanting to talk this much and keep the show going. But good to be back with you. Good to be back with the crowd here in the YouTube chat. We appreciate you guys. Hopefully this was helpful. Give us a like. Make sure you're subscribed. Let us know in the comments if you agree or disagree with anything. We'll keep it moving. We got a lot of other content coming your way this week. So that's going to do it for the First Look Show. For Hoop, for myself, ToeTagginTambo, let's ship it!